Hi, Vanessa here and welcome to my channel. Today we're talking about Mrs. Everything by Jennifer Weiner. If you're new, please subscribe and don't forget to stay to the end for the book quote of the day. Mrs. Everything has been a book that I've been highly anticipating. I don't think Jennifer Weiner has released anything since 2017, and so when I heard it was coming out, I quickly put my name on the list, and I think I waited about 6 to 8 weeks and I finally got my hands on it. After I finished reading it, I think I felt like I aged 50 years, and that's no surprise because this book takes us from childhood into our senior years of our characters. So the pacing of this book, if I could compare it to something, would be Forrest Gump, where we meet Forrest as a young boy and we follow him into his life journey. I think this is also going to be made into a movie. I can just see that it has the same qualities. It has that dynamic storyline. The story starts off with two sisters, Jo and Bethy Kaufman, and when we meet them, they're about 6 and 8 years old. We are taken into the 1960s, and at that time, it's very Stepford Wives, and when we meet the sisters, they're very typical. You have Bethy, who is the younger golden sister, and Jo, who's a little bit older at 8, and she's just kind of really discovering that she doesn't feel like other girls. She doesn't feel like who her parents want her to be. And so when that starts to unfold, you kind of get an idea that this story might not be what you expected. The point of view flips between Jo and Bethy, which I think is completely awesome. At first, when I meet Bethy, I think that she's very one-dimensional. She is a perfect daughter, and I thought I kind of had her all figured out. Jo, I was a little bit more interested because she seemed to have these feelings that I couldn't really decipher what they were, and I was interested in finding out where it kind of took her. And I liked listening to her dreams because she had a lot of them. She was a very brave girl who wanted to make a change. She lived in a white neighborhood and couldn't understand why there wasn't more racial equality. And then we also learned that she has feelings for girls. And at that time in her childhood and in that era, I think there isn't that many resources, or the concepts of that is not as acceptable. And so I found that completely interesting in just learning about Jo at that adolescent age and what her hopes and dreams were. I had a lot of interest in seeing how it would play out, versus Bethy, who I thought was one-dimensional. She didn't really have any qualms. She's talented, she's social, she gets along with her parents. And so at first I wasn't so interested in her story at all. And quickly that takes a turn in the next phases of the story. What the turning point for both these girls is when their father passes away tragically at a young age, and where her mom lived this comfortable life of being a homemaker, she suddenly has to take up a job, and the girls are forced to be more independent. And so we revisit Bethy's story, and she's suddenly met with this tragedy where her uncle starts to molest her. And she keeps it to herself because I think, especially at that age, you are very vulnerable. You're not sure really what is going on, and that's been a turning point for her, and it kind of really just pushes her story forward. Like I said, when we meet the girls, they're only about 6 and 8 years old with these big dreams, and by the time we close the book, they are in their late 70s. So a lot has happened in between, and this book is not a page turner. You're not going to stay up all night reading it. I feel like it's more, you need to hunker down and absorb the book for what it is, and it's really conveniently just divided into time periods. I felt like it was such a joy and education to kind of learn about each era and follow each girl and how they kind of absorb that era for their own personalities. Well, because they're so different. And I felt that Jennifer Weiner did a really good job kind of describing in detail what the attitudes were like towards certain social issues, what the fashion was like for men and women, what kind of recreational activities people were doing, and just how they lived life. And she really weaved a rich background to really support the credibility to these girls' stories. I think all of Jennifer Weiner's book really call for a lot of emotion from the reader, and this was no exception. And I think what really fueled a lot of these emotions for me is that there were so many layers added to it. She weaves all these scenarios and are still common today. We have generational feuds, friendship betrayals, domestic infidelity, professional dissatisfaction, and the list goes on. These girls did have no shortage of facing the same challenges that we face today. And I think that's what makes us so sympathetic to them, and also being able to connect with them in a way that the reader should connect to stories. I think when we meet an individual, we don't actually, we don't know their history, and we judge them based on what we know. And this story kind of gives a new perspective, really hones in the message that you're just meeting this person in this place and time. You don't know what happened to them before, what their story is. And if you had met Joe at age 10 and then again at age 40, this woman is just a former shadow of herself. And that's what life is like. It continues to build on itself. And I think this story really frames that up really well, really making us reflect our life choices or even how we judge others based on just what we know now. I felt a whole range of emotions while I read this book. I felt happy, sad, disgusted, hopeful, and I was really rooting for these characters. I felt very empowered at the end. I mean, as a female, knowing how far we progressed from the 1960s till now, understanding what had to be done in order for us to have the types of choices that we have today, and even more aware of all the work that we still have to do. And that's why I think her message in this book is so important. And it's not just portrayed through one character, it's portrayed through two characters who are vastly different in the way that they think and the way that they do their actions. So I think she did a really great job of that. I always enjoy all of Jennifer Weiner's books. They are packed with emotions and relevant issues. This one especially, this one was special because I think instead of having a snapshot of a time frame, it really took us through the entire lives of these girls in a time where things were changing so much and society was changing so much. I think that's very unique about this book. So if you're looking for your next read, I recommend Jennifer Weiner's Mrs. Everything. I rate this book 3.9 out of 5 stars. So if you read Mrs. Everything, please comment below and let me know what you thought, or if you read any other Jennifer Weiner books that you would recommend. I wish you happy reading, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!